Today, we are going to be focusing on Affirm understanding. So thank you so much for joining us. We definitely want to start to explore, what does it mean to make sure that all of our students, their learning's in sync with our lesson objectives, right? We want to make sure that they are ready to move forward with learning before, before we move too fast, right? So this is really that space of Affirm understanding where we can do that for them. If you've been with me before for any of these sessions, you will know that we do things a little bit differently during these sprints, what we call them. So we do have a different application called AHA Slides. If you do have a mobile device handy, please scan the QR code on the screen. I'm actually going to join with you today, just so I can make sure that I'm giving really clear directions as we do this. Also, I'm going to be placing a link into the chat on Zoom. So if you are joining from a desktop and you just like to click into that link, you can then open from there. Inside this application, there is one section that you can put in your name. You can just put in your initials. It's all going to be anonymous, but really we have opportunities to interact with one another within these slides. So some different opportunities for us to give feedback and to give best practices. I can see some reactions coming on the screen. You can heart, you can like different segments. You can also screenshot any of the session or any of the screens that I'm showing on my QR code didn't open. Any of the screens that I'm showing on my screen. So they're there for you. I can see 8 of us are inside, so thank you so much. If you aren't choosing to join through AHA, I still have the Zoom chat open. You can still give interaction through there. So by all means, it's not necessary, but we do love to have as much activity in there as possible. Great. Looks like we have a good group in there. So as we move through, you kind of get the feel. I will bring this QR code up again if it's something that you're interested in, and that link is also inside that chat. So if you ever want to join, please do so. So right from the get-go, we're going to start out with a question. This is a word cloud activity. So what you're going to do is on your device, you're going to type in, if you're not joining through that segment or through AHA Slides, please type in the Zoom chat. I really want to take us to a place where we're like on vacation, or you're somewhere that you aren't very familiar, right? And you don't really know your surroundings, or you're feeling lost. So I want to know, how do you feel when you don't really know what's happening, when you're lost, your surroundings are a little bit out there? What comes up for you? You have an opportunity to put in a couple different adjectives, a couple different feelings. As I said, I'm on my phone, I'm joining with you, so I'm going to put in a few things here. Spelling doesn't matter, honestly, so please don't worry about that. Okay, I can see some coming in. With this activity in particular, the larger the word is, that means the more people are actually saying that same thing. So we've had 14 responses coming in here. You can see on our screen 17, 20 responses coming in. A lot of anxious, fight or flight, frustrated, scared, upset, annoyed, nervous, confused. All of these things, like frustrated, I see in the chat, like lot of the same ideas. Definitely we're not feeling cozy, welcome, happy, right? Some on the more negative side, these feelings that are coming up for us. So with this, I want to take this is a great activity, because this is what we're trying to avoid when we're affirming understanding with our students, right? We want to make sure that they're not feeling lost in the curriculum and in the lesson that we're teaching them. We want to make sure that they're feeling the opposite of everything that you're seeing on the screen right now. We want them to feel like they're safe, that they have all the information that they need. We know when fear is present, when any of these things are showing up in our learners' minds or in their bodies, learning is not happening. So it's our job to make sure that we are able to move forward with the learning, but also, counteract any of these things taking place in our learners. So with that, we're going to really look at the purpose, the importance of making sure that we are summarizing, checking for the understanding before we're moving forward. This is a crucial point in the learning process and in brain compatible learning. So again, we're going to talk about some best practice strategies. We're going to learn from each other. That's another thing I love about these sprints is we really have the opportunity to teach each other and learn from each other. We have educators from all walks of life in here. So we have very experienced educators. We have some newer educators. So let's work together and really talk about Affirm understanding. Don't want to forget, 501.17 is the lesson in lab. If you want to jot that down in a note, that is the lesson that you can always, that's what I'm referencing when we go through this particular lesson. So Affirm understanding, we are in, if we look at the wheel on the screen, this is our mindful teaching wheel. We start here in the yellow, we move through our readiness phase. We've worked through delivery, so we are in that third and final element of the delivery phase. In the delivery phase, we're engaging thinking. Our student's brain is trying to make sense of information. They're trying to make sure that memory is going to happen because that's the key, again, to move forward. We want to make sure that naturally the brain is taking in the information and learning it in a natural way. Learners are making sense of the material. It's our job to make sure that we are helping them make sense of the material. They also are doing it, it's that give or take. We have to make sure that we're helping and we're meeting them where they are so that if they have any questions, they don't move into that fight or flight. They don't move into that fear of not knowing how to move forward. And we're there to help guide them to the next step of the cycle, which is the performance phase. You can see here, we'll move there next week, but we have to finish up this delivery phase. This is where we are still really in control of everything that we're teaching, but it's still our job to make sure that we are checking in and understanding where each learner is in this, depending on what you're teaching. So let's move in and let's talk about some of the best practice strategies with Affirm understanding. Ultimately, affirming understanding, we want to make sure that we are checking in and every student, like I said, is really clear on the expectations so far. So with this, we can review for those key concepts, those key terms. We can check for that understanding in many different ways. And we're going to go in deeply into each one of these. And then we can also have the opportunity to reteach anything if and when that is necessary to do. Key thing there is, making sure that we leave ourselves time for that reteach. We don't want to move forward without making sure that we are affirming the understanding of every single one of our learners. I know things come up, students are absent, all of that. So those are some things that are definitely those pain points for us as educators when we are kind of moving backwards. But think about this in the state where we're with everyone in class, whether we're virtual, we're in person, and we have these opportunities to really make sure that we're reviewing, we're checking in, and if we need to, we're reteaching any of the concepts that need further discussion. So let's move in to diving deeper into each one of these. First and foremost, we have our review. So I really like to think of this as, that verbal confirmation, that clarification, really making sure this is also, remember that we're still in the delivery phase. So this is happening while we're still delivering, whether we're in lecture, if we're demonstrating theory and hands-on, this is all kind of happening at once. So a little bit of some of this kind of is fluid when it comes to all of the delivery topics, probing with questions and things like that. But this is ultimately, think about at that end portion of when we're delivering whatever concepts we are teaching. So theory, an example would be, calling out charts and this is our highlight reel, right? We're highlighting those high level concepts, the important things that are necessary to really understand. So if we're thinking about an anatomy lesson, for example, calling out key charts in our text or in lab that our students can refer to, and making sure that, we reviewed this and we went through this chart of bones, muscles, whatever it might be, making sure that your students understand that that's important for them to know. If you're thinking about a practical lesson, you can think in the same vein, but really in reviewing those important steps. So what are the steps to a consultation? Okay, making sure that you're highlighting what those important skills are before we're moving forward, because if we're talking about a practical lesson, the next step, if we move into performance, is the students actually performing that. Right. So, we might be using video, we might be using demonstrations, making sure that we are utilizing all of the instructional support materials that we have at our fingertips, that our fundamentals programs do provide for us, that we have in our back pockets through all of the years of experience that we have, right? So making sure that we are, as we're working through our lectures, as we're working through our demonstrations, that we are definitely always questioning as we're going, reviewing, using all of our flip charts, using all of our props, using anything that we have at our disposal to make that learning really understood by all types of learners, right? Because we know we have different types of learning happening in each of our learners. And so this review part is just making sure that we are, like I said, it's our highlight reel. We're making sure that we are highlighting those very important things that if there are questions or things that aren't coming through clearly, your students have the opportunity to show you that they don't understand, or maybe that it's not as clear. And that is the whole point of Affirm understanding. So these are our tools to review. I like to also think of review as more of a whole group activity. Like I said, it is it's in conjunction with when we are delivering concepts. So it is part of that whole group activity. So let's move in, because review and check, I'm just going to back up one slide. Oopsies, that was two. Review and check, these really do kind of go hand in hand. So let's move into check, because this is where we are able to really see individually which students do and do not have clear understanding of the concepts that we're teaching. I do like to think of the check aspect as more individual. However, there are definitely check opportunities that are group opportunities. I just, when you think about if you're calling out and you're asking questions to a group of students and you're getting some answers, you don't really have a good understanding of every single individual student's understanding. So when you look at the screen here, you see self-checks. So definitely giving your students the opportunities to have their own self-check. And an example of this would be a lesson challenge in lab, or a quiz, right? Where they're doing it individually and you can look in and see if they have an understanding. An example for a practical lesson would be like a design decision chart or a skin mapping chart. Anything of that nature where they're actually writing down concepts that you reviewed during your lesson, so that you can go and you can see that individual is understanding that material. I have on here also that 80% rule, because this is very important. This is our key to know if we're ready to move forward. The 80% rule is making sure that 80% of your students understand 80% of the lesson, right? I'm going to use lab as an example. Our lesson challenges and our theory lessons, they have to receive a 75% to move forward, or to have that deemed complete, right? Or acceptable is the wrong word, but in order to have it marked as a check mark and yes, that they passed. Same idea here. So we want to make sure that majority of our students, 80% or more of our students, are understanding 80% or more of that criteria. And so that, again, it really is important for us to have an opportunity to see each individual's progress in some way as far as checking goes. This is, again, that go or no go. So if we do deem that 80% of our students are passing by 80% or more, let's move forward, right? Go forward. If that is not happening, we are not moving forward, it's time for us to definitely revisit concepts as a whole group, okay? So this is our go or no go when we're checking in for that understanding, when we're looking at each individual's progress and what they are really conceptualizing with the lesson content. I am going to bring up our QR code because we're going to have some activities. They are just little quizzes where we have a few that will be real fast. We'll move through. I see 3 individuals are in AHA slides. If you're not in, please scan the QR code or go back to your device and get back in. You can also revisit that link in the chat for Zoom. We want to look at these different concepts and we want to identify what is considered review, what is considered check. They have different philosophies, right? One is we're reviewing, excuse me, I got tongue-tied. We're reviewing our highlight reel. We're reviewing those key concepts, those key skills that need to be understood before we can move into practical, or we're reviewing those key concepts that we need to understand so that we have an understanding of the theory concepts that we're speaking of, right? So that's the review. Checking is checking in on each individual's progress. So I see we have quite a few of us back in here. So I'm going to take away our QR code. And when you look at the lesson or the activity on the screen, you're going to choose whether you would put this as more of a review or more of a check. So reviewing or checking for understanding. This is, if you're following around, like I said, just put in your initials, put in your nickname. Can be totally anonymous. You're not going to see the names on the screen by any means. So please just go ahead and provide that. Yeah, you can choose your little emoji. I'm not going to join you on this one because I know the answer. So great. Just wait another minute. I see 10 of us in AHA, and 8 of us have joined this section. Again, safe space. We're actually checking for understanding here. This is what we're doing, right? Point blank. Okay, so I have 9 of us in here. So let's move into our first question. Again, let's look at the activity and then let's choose whether we would say this is more of a review whole group or if this is something that we can check with. Okay. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Oopsies. I hit, So sorry. I'm hopefully on the first question here. Here we go. 1 of 3. So if we're talking about a lesson challenge or a quiz, would you place that into more of a review, a whole group review, or more of a check? Are we checking for understanding or reviewing material, reviewing content? 6 seconds left. 2, 1. Yes. Okay. So lesson challenge or quizzes, this is more individual, right? So this is where we're really checking. It is tricky. And I would actually say you're all right because these do all meld together, but it is really checking. This is an area where you as the educator can go and you can review their actual responses and see how each individual student is doing when you're looking at a specific lesson challenge or quiz. So Great job. It is a little, that one was a challenging one. Let's keep going. Don't be discouraged. Question 2. A video or a visual aid. We're using our teacher support materials to support the lesson. Is this more part of reviewing those key concepts, or is this more checking? Okay, let's see how we did. Yes. Round of applause. This is that whole group review. This is while we're still demonstrating. So yes, we are utilizing our instructional tools in order to really bring to life those highlighted concepts, making sure we're using repetition, all of that, and reviewing, utilizing our instructional tools. Great. We have one more question, so stay with me. We're going to move into our third and final question. Don't get too tripped up on this one. So we're going to talk about, if you're asking questions relating to the lesson concepts, if you're just, group Q&A in front of a group, we're talking about the questions, we're asking open-ended questions, we're asking yes or no questions. What does that look like and feel like? Yes, excellent. So it's actually both. Both are correct. This is where reviewing and checking, they work hand in hand. I don't want to make it more confusing for you, but I wanted to highlight the opportunities that we have with whole group review, the importance that checking each individual's progress really does make. That's when we think about that first question that we had of that lesson challenge, and we think about a specific lesson challenge, and we can go in and look at one student's one student's answers or their results. That's the key there. So excellent job on all of this. Let's move into our last best practice, and this is really talking about reteaching. So let's take the scenario, 80% of our students, we are ready to move forward, but there is a handful, right? There are some students that still actually need to revisit some of the concepts. So when necessary, we can reteach just a select group of students if we need to. We want to make sure that we are reviewing and clarifying the information that maybe isn't coming as naturally to them in comprehension. That's where it's really nice when we can look and see at those lesson challenges or any quizzes, any design decision charts or mapping that they're actually doing, so we can see where they may be misunderstanding the information. The key here is when we do this, making sure that you're not holding up the whole group, right? So you can have different activities, having part of the group move forward with hands-on or a different activity, doing, preparing for a teach back or something like that. And then working closely with the other individuals with an alternate approach. So not going through, if you did a demonstration one way, not doing the demonstration the same way, doing it a little bit different, like a Simon Says style. Same thing with the lecture, not going through the same PowerPoint that you went through the first time, but more going into it, asking open-ended questions, maybe looking at a list of glossary terms or something like that, having open dialogue with those learners that definitely, we needed to work with to make sure that they are understanding the material, and then everyone can move forward in the learning. So last little activity here, I am going to bring up the QR again. I do see most of us are still in here, but this is where we have opportunity to learn from each other. And I really am interested in hearing what your go-to reteaching strategies or activities are. So when we do have those times and those, it all occurs every day in our classes when we need to take that select group of students, or even maybe one student aside, and have the rest of the group do something differently. So what are your things that you like to do if and when that happens to you? I am going to actually participate with you on this one. Maybe. Here we go. Okay. Great. I see some things coming in. I really like to have my students reteach or teach me what they know or what they can remember from the lesson, whether it's hands-on or theory. So really just checking in on, what they think they know and ensuring, making sure that that is correct. And then making sure that I'm filling in any gaps. So where there are missing pieces, I'm seeing going over materials directly. Yeah, they have so many lesson and learner materials and resources in lab to help support them. A lot of the times we don't actually utilize every single one in every single class. So if we can pull out those materials, absolutely. We can always explain it differently. Absolutely. A different approach is key when we're reteaching. Having another teacher explain the subject, for sure. Yeah, if you're not understanding it clearly from me, lean on our team members. We're here for each other. Flashcards. Yes, pair up. And have learners with needs. Yes, have the learners that do get it, pair up with the learners that don't, and kind of have study groups and study sessions. Absolutely. Open-ended questions. I think students learn better when they're autonomous. Yes. If it's during practical, have a different teacher explain, for sure. Having more than one viewpoint is very great. Tutors, mentors, yes, all of that. Absolutely. So these are all really great best practices, really great strategies when we do need to have those sessions and those breakout groups. So I hope that this gave you some great insight into, it says, I love the peer-to-peer learning. Yes, peer-to-peer learning is so great. Absolutely. So I hope this gave you some great insight into Affirm understanding, gave you a little bit of a push to kind of look into this element a little more the next few weeks before we have our next segment, which is going to move into the performance phase. Again, if you
I can say that after all these years, I still enjoy being in the classroom. And
if you have a chance, please join our flip group. Share this with anyone. The emails that you do receive, they are found on Lab under the Pivot Point Live announcements. I'm going to post this flip group in there as well. So invite your team, join us. There'll be a recording of this session. There'll also be support material for this session. They'll be able to go into the slide presentation themselves and things like that. So we really are enjoying this community and it is growing, and we really look forward to seeing more people in here. I actually am going to post the link to the flip group, but again, I will be posting it into Lab as well. Those lessons that will support this Affirm understanding, as I stated earlier, 501.17. We also have in the 501 series the lecture. That is a great support lesson in Mindful Teaching Pro, in the 200 series memory and the delivery phase. And again, we are moving next session when we meet, we will be moving into performance. This is going to be our second to last phase where we will discuss the apply element. Oops, excuse me. And thank you so much. I really had a great time with you. Thank you for the interaction, and we will see you next time. Take care.